How do you turn a whole community into one big backyard wildlife habitat? We're going to find out how Zionsville did it next on Indiana Outdoors. Welcome to Indiana Outdoors. I'm Don Van Meter.
And I'm Jill Ditmire, and today we are at the Zion Nature Center in Zionsville in Boone County.
Yeah, a little later we're going to talk to Gigi Nicholas about the Nature Center and learn a little more about the Community Wildlife Habitat Program.
But our first story today is for those of you who have always wanted to fly a plane, but maybe didn't have the time or the money to do so.
Yes, in Muncie, Indiana, at the Academy of Model Aeronautics, you can learn to fly without ever leaving the ground.
I became interested in radio control flying when I was about
11 or 12 years old.
8 years old. My dad carved us out a solid balsa airplane.
Well, I've been flying model airplanes since I was 7 years old, and I'm now 72.
And all 20 kids in the neighborhood beat that thing to death for an entire year.
I loved it as a child.
It gets into your blood really bad.
It has escalated since then.
I got so obsessed with radio control flying that I sold my bass boat, and I haven't used my golf clubs in probably the last 5 years. Model airplanes basically go into three categories. Free flight, which means no control once it leaves the hands of the modeler. Radio control airplane is controlled by a handheld radio. And control line flying, which is the flying a plane on two wires around in a circle. The airfield here is kind of split up into areas. The area over in this direction is the radio control section.
I like radio control flying a little bit better than the control line because it's more
True to life, like the real ones.
I think it takes a little more skill.
I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
We have another area where the control line circles are.
This has been my first love.
It's a lot cheaper. You end up with maybe $100 in a plane and engine.
I like the fact that you have to do everything 4 foot off the ground to 60 or 70 feet up.
You're never over about 60 feet from disaster.
Sort of thrills me a little bit.
The average person would usually have a plane that would be in the order of $300 to $400. I wouldn't recommend that anyone take off by themselves with a new radio control model airplane if they've never tried it before. They need to get help from a modeler that is experienced. If you just go to your local hobby shop and ask them, where can I find someone that can show me how to fly radio control model airplanes, they will be able to tell you where the local club is and who the people are that can teach you to fly. We have taught 83-year-old men to fly and 7-year-old children to fly. Believe me, the 7-year-olds learn real quick. Anyone of any age can learn. One of the best things is the people you meet. One day I said, have you ever met a modeler you didn't like? And the guy said, you know, I can't think of one person.
I'd like all of you to meet Gigi Nicholas. She's the program coordinator here at the Zion Nature Center. Thanks for inviting us over today.
We're glad to have you.
You know, when people think about Zionsville, we think about the restaurants and the art galleries and shopping. We don't really think about nature.
Right?
And we should, because there's a lot that you offer here.
We certainly do. The Zion Nature Center, which has been open for about 2.5 years now, is a terrific resource for the town of Zionsville. It's a real community jewel. It's been created by volunteer efforts and by the support of a lot of civic organizations. And we offer programming every weekend, things everywhere from preschool programs up through programs for adults, things about how to use native plants in your landscaping, stories that will captivate young kids, through even high school age programs.
And we know we've seen some birds outside, and we've seen, it's still a little gray. We're in the end of winter here, so we haven't been able to identify flowers and such yet. But how do you decide exactly what items and what programs that you're going to offer to the public?
Sometimes it's by request, oddly enough. Sometimes we'll have groups that call up and say they're interested in learning about a particular type of animal, or they're interested in a program on birds, and could we do that? And so we will craft a program for them. Sometimes we just decide, well, it's the time of year, we'll do something that's pertinent to the season. Just recently we did a program on winter bark here in the Nature Sanctuary, where visitors came, took a hike through the wintertime woods and learned to identify trees by recognizing their bark.
Is there an admission? Do you have to be a member? And
No.
What are your hours?
Our admission is free, and we are open on Saturdays from 10 to 5 and Sundays from 12 to 5. Some of our programs do have a nominal admission fee if we have materials that we need to acquire for the particular program, but we state that in advance, and people can go to our website to find out our schedule of programs and also if there's going to be a charge for any of the programs.
And I have to ask, Zippy the squirrel, who is he?
Well, actually, he's Zippy the chipmunk.
He's a chipmunk. See, I need to come take the classes.
Zippy is our mascot. One of the first things that we did when we were establishing the Nature Center a couple of years ago was to have a mascot contest in Zionsville. To this day and age, when most of us live in an urban or a suburban setting, you really have to learn to love nature where it is and the way it is. And so we thought that the chipmunk was a perfect representative for that.
Zippy, you gotta love him, and a good time at the Zion Nature Center. Thank you, Gigi, for inviting us over.
Well, thank you for coming to visit.
Don?
Thanks, Jill. I'm visiting with Elizabeth Mueller here in Zionsville, and she was instrumental in starting the Certified Community Wildlife Habitat for Zionsville. That sounds like a big job, Elizabeth. What does that mean?
Well, a certified backyard wildlife habitat just means that a homeowner has provided food, water, shelter, and places to raise young.
Yes.
For specifically birds, but other, small wildlife also. And this is a recognition from the National Wildlife Federation.
Yes.
They actually do the certification.
So when we talk about a community...
Well, then that means that a lot of people have done this in their yards, and some businesses, schools, churches, other organizations, the parks. We're standing in one right now. And this is a park, the Nature Sanctuary, that is a certified backyard wildlife habitat.
Now why would a community want to do this?
Well, Zionsville is growing, as you have probably seen. When we moved here in '92, there were very few subdivisions, and now they're just coming up everywhere. It's a way of giving back to the agricultural land that is lost, a lot of the old growth woods, some of the wetlands, those areas. And by providing these basics for wildlife, you can nourish them and protect them so that they will be attracted to stay here. Because the first thing that's misplaced when a subdivision goes in is the wildlife.
So certainly being involved in something like this improves the whole quality of life.
Right. And if one person does it, it's good, but then if their neighbors will do it, it's even better. And we've seen a great increase in great blue herons since we started this program.
Well, how does one go about getting into a program like this?
Well, to certify your own yard, you need to get an application, and you can get that from the National Wildlife Federation on their website. Or you can go to local Wild Birds Unlimited stores, and they have the applications. And then what you're doing is taking an inventory of what's in your yard. You list the plants, your sources of water, the food you provide.
Yes.
You mail that into the National Wildlife Federation, and then you'll get your certification.
So how much does this cost?
It's free.
That's the wonderful part about
The only
it.
thing is you pay a $15 registration fee,
Yes.
and there's nothing else involved.
Well, it sounds like a great program, and thank you very much for telling us about it.
Thank you.
The National Wildlife Refuge System was established over 100 years ago by Theodore Roosevelt when he established Florida's Pelican Island as the first refuge.
And Indiana has 3 areas in the National Wildlife Refuge System, and Indiana Outdoors has captured them all on videotape as part of the Centennial Celebration.
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's National Wildlife Refuge System is a unique network of mountain, forest, prairie, and water habitats. National wildlife refuges were established to protect and manage selected species of fish, wildlife, and plants, many of which would have become extinct without this protection. Indiana is fortunate to have 3 refuges that are home to dozens of species of birds, mammals, reptiles, and fish. These refuges are also for people and provide a place where visitors can enjoy fishing, hunting, and other outdoor activities.
National Wildlife Refuge System got its start back in 1903. President Teddy Roosevelt signed an executive order that provided protection to a small 3-acre island off the coast of Florida. And it was done to protect colonial nesting birds, which were being slaughtered for their feathers to supply fancy feathers for the millinery trade. At that time, there was no national system of lands to protect birds, and that was the very first time. So it's been 100 years. We started out with that one in 1903 at 3 acres, and now we're at over 540 National Wildlife Refuges. Every state of the Union has a National Wildlife Refuge, at least one.
The pressures are greater now to protect what little bit we have left than it was 100 years ago. 100 years ago, they were seeing the onset of the impact of mankind on natural resources. I don't think they ever foresaw 100 years ago that we would have the kind of pressure for our natural resources that we do today.
The Scatatuck National Wildlife Refuge was established in 1966 as a great place to have wood duck broods. The land was purchased, and we now have over 7,000 acres of land that's almost 5 miles long by 3 miles wide of some of the best wood duck habitat. And then it's also a great place for migratory birds to stop over, which include waterfowl and the songbirds.
There are many species of plants and wildlife, both resident and migratory, found here on Muscatatuck. We're one of the better areas in the state for copperbelly water snake populations, which is a state endangered species and a federally threatened. Visitors to Muscatatuck commonly see deer, turkey, a variety of waterfowl, depending upon the time of year. River otter were introduced here in '95, and so that's not an unusual sighting for visitors. Quite a variety of opportunities. There are many people who visit and use the refuge every year. Being the oldest refuge in Indiana, or maybe a little better known than the other two, we're also very handy to Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Louisville.
We do have quite a bit of public use opportunities here at Muscatatuck. We have 9 miles of driving roads for public use. We have 8 hiking trails. We allow biking on the roads. We do have fishing. We do have hunting.
Our Chestnut Ridge Trail at the Visitor Center is wheelchair accessible. We have an observation deck that also provides accessibility with a couple of scopes mounted permanently on the deck at Endicott Marsh.
Refuge systems across the United States recognize 6 primary types of wildlife-oriented public use. Those are the focus areas for public use on refuge. And of course, hunting and fishing are 2 of those. Wildlife observation is another. Outdoor education and interpretive services. And then there's wildlife photography. These activities are all very popular, and people are just now starting to discover these activities are available now on these lands. Patoka River National Wildlife Refuge was established officially in 1994, so it was 91 years after Teddy Roosevelt created Pelican Island. Patoka River National Wildlife Refuge and Management Area it has a different name there. You notice we say in management area, and there's a reason for that, and that it is located in an area where surface coal mining occurs. And that was a problem that cropped up establishment of this refuge, and the way we resolved that was we designated the refuge as in 2 ways. One, it's a National Wildlife Refuge, but it's also a National Wildlife Management Area. The difference is to wildlife, and as far as the public visitors are concerned, is they're totally insignificant. But it allowed us to go forward with an acquisition program without interfering with the rights of others regarding the selling of coal mining rights. And as a result of that, we do have surface coal mining activity within our acquisition boundaries, but it's within those portions of the boundary that are classified as wildlife management selection areas. And when they're being reclaimed, a lot of them are being reclaimed back into grasslands. In fact, if we look back to the distance here, those hillsides back there, that's all reclaimed mine land back there. And those areas have birds like henslow, sparrows that are nesting there right now. We do have an emphasis on migratory waterfowl because Patoka Bottoms has a rich history of migratory waterfowl use. It's particularly important during the spring migration for birds that are flying back north.
You know, we have probably a dozen different species of trees within sight here. On the refuge, we have somewhere around 45 species of mammals that utilize these woods, and over 200 species of birds. Indiana bat, which is a federally endangered species, has been documented maternity areas for the females right in these trees. So it's a special place.
We have a unique relationship with, on this refuge, working with the Army and the Air National Guard because we're all 3 here on the property. Of course, the Air Guard range is 1,000 acres. The Army owns the whole land, and the refuge is on 50,000 acres. And this is one of the largest contiguous areas of forest in southeastern Indiana. And people comment when they fly in airliners over this place that they can see this large island of habitat out here in the landscape. And that large size allows us to do things for wildlife that other smaller wildlife areas can't. And so that's one of the great things, that we have such a large area that we have niches for lots and lots of things, and that increases our diversity for plants and wildlife. This refuge is new. We were just established in June of 2000, so we have lots to do here. The size of this place, we have lots of things to look at, and it's a real exciting to be at the start of something and to begin from day one to see what we can do here.
Because of the unique
area that we're in at Big Oaks National Wildlife Refuge, we have to rely on beavers to do our wetland restoration. No ground disturbance here because of the past military use. And so beaver are a keystone species that a lot of other species rely on. And you can see here a beautiful wetland created by the beaver. One of the main reasons we were involved at Big Oaks National Wildlife Refuge and established the refuge because of the Henslow sparrow. And the species was petitioned to be listed as an endangered species, but because of the good population here and a productive population, it was decided that we didn't need to do that. The Henslow sparrow is just one of many grassland bird species that respond to the fire. The prairie is one of the most endangered habitats that we have. And so that was one of the reasons that we came in, is to continue this fire program. And so we continued that practice and made it a real wildlife management practice for these sparrows and other game species.
I've worked on a lot
of acres surrounded by a fence, and half those areas are never walked on by humans. So it's true sanctuary. And with that true sanctuary, that gives wildlife a special place to be protected in.
Well, Jill, can you name the 3 refuges in Indiana?
I can now. They are Muscatatuck, Big Oaks, and Patoka River, all in southern Indiana.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, our last story is in central Indiana, and it's about a subject dear to my heart.
Yes, indeed. Many of you don't know this, but Don is a soil scientist. He's actually Dr. Don.
Well, just in case, Jill, you wanted to know some more information about soil, we've produced a package about soils that will tell you everything you ever wanted to know.
Wow, let's watch.
Soil is one of Indiana's most important natural resources, yet many Hoosiers don't know much about this resource. Knowing about soil can be beneficial not only to farmers, but also to homeowners. Indiana has some of the best soil in the world. This, along with good climate, makes Indiana an ideal place for growing food. Indiana produces over $3.2 billion a year in field crops. $1.5 billion of this is solely from corn. In the future, it is predicted that corn may be used as an alternative energy source, reducing the dependency on coal, oil, and natural gas as energy sources. This is why we need to conserve Indiana's soil and appreciate how important soil is in our everyday lives. Knowing what soil you have can also help homeowners make important decisions when choosing a house site. Having the right kind of soil can help ensure a stable building foundation, a better septic system, and an ideal location for lawns and gardens. 4 different properties of soil that influence its use for home sites and the production of food are texture, structure, color, and depth. Texture is the percent of sand, silt, and clay that exists in the soil. This contributes to how well the land drains and its suitability for a house foundation. The second physical property of soil is structure, which is simply the arrangement of sand, silt, and clay grains into aggregates or larger soil particles. Structure determines how well water moves through the soil and how well roots can grow and absorb water and nutrients. Another physical property of soil is color. The color of soil is an indicator of how well drained the soil is and the amount of organic matter in that soil. So a color is determined by comparing a soil sample to a color chart. The final property of soil is depth. A compacted soil layer limits the downward movement of water and roots. There are many ways to learn about soil. High school and college students can participate in soil judging contests and enroll in agriculture and soil science classes. From these experiences, students learn basic facts about the soil and potential career opportunities. Others can learn about soil by contacting their county cooperative extension service office or the local Soil and Water Conservation District and the Natural Resources Conservation Service office. As I think you've discovered by now, our soil is more than just dirt. It's a resource we all depend upon, from the food we eat to the land on which we build our homes. For Indiana Outdoors, I'm Don Van Meter.
Well, that's our show for today, and we'd like to thank the town of Zionsville for its hospitality, and we hope that all of you will give it a visit in the wintertime for some outdoor activities.
Goodbye, everybody.
We'll see you later. Let's go to the Nature Center, though. It's warm in there.
Sounds good to me.